Wasabi wallet. Unfairly private.
What's up, everyone? Ben with the BTC Sessions here, and this is your daily session.
Hodl that Bitcoin.
Before we dive in, shout out to sponsors of the show, Ledn.io. This is where you can use your Bitcoin for a couple of different services. The first of which is to stack some extra sats by using their Bitcoin savings account. So the way it works is you deposit, you earn interest on your Bitcoin paid in Bitcoin. Secondly, they also have Bitcoin-backed loans. So what you do is you use your Bitcoin as collateral to secure a US or Canadian dollar loan. And this will sit in a dedicated account that you can audit on the blockchain 24/7 until the loan is paid back. Secondly, and I should say actually, if you decide to get a loan, there is a link down below to check out their services. If you decide to get the loan, then they will credit your account with an additional $50 worth of Bitcoin. And moving on, of course, if you're into Bitcoin, privacy is important. One of the things I use all the time is NordVPN on my phone, on my computer. And what it does is it hides your IP address, it encrypts your browsing data, and it has a few other added benefits like unlocking geo-block content. If you use the link down below that I provided, you can get the service for $3 a month. And with that, let's dive into the news. So we were talking a little bit about Facebook's Libra the other day, and back in the news again today for a couple of the stories that we're going to touch on actually, but this one in particular, the Libra Association is made up of 28 corporate backers that would essentially be the governing body for Facebook's Libra project if it ends up launching. You can strike one of those off the list because PayPal has officially backed out. So essentially, they said PayPal has made the decision to forego further participation in the Libra Association at this time and continue to focus on advancing our existing mission and business priorities as we strive to democratize access to financial services and underserved populations. So they essentially just totally backed out, and there's a lot of speculation as to why, but you could probably bet your bottom dollar that it is because of all of the regulation and scrutiny from governments and other regulators around the globe, not just in the U.S. and the Senate, but there's countries saying they're going to ban it, so that a lot of Europe is saying essentially absolutely not. You're not going to be able to use this here. And it looks like PayPal was just not ready to deal with a lot of that. And the interesting thing here is really the fact that if this was Bitcoin, you cannot take it in front of the Senate. There's nobody to talk to. It's just another point that when nowadays, in this day and age, you cannot come out with a digital currency and have the same advantage that Bitcoin does, in that there's no leader to point to and there's no one to regulate. It's a network and it works. It's a protocol. So with this, again, we've just seen the ire of governments around the world come down upon it. I don't know what happens from here, but yeah, it's not looking great. I would assume that either it doesn't launch or it's going to be kind of a crippled version of what they plan to do. And moving on to the next story. So Apple CEO Tim Cook is chiming in, or not specifically. He doesn't specifically call out Facebook, but he was asked in a recent interview whether they are looking to launch their own cryptocurrency at Apple, and he said, "No, I deeply believe that money must remain in the hands of states. I am not comfortable with the idea that a private group creates a competing currency. A private company does not have to seek to gain power in this way." He went on to also say, money, like defense, must remain in the hands of states. It is at the heart of their mission. We elect our representatives to assume government responsibilities. Companies are not elected. They do not have to go on this ground. Now, I find his comments very interesting for a couple of reasons. Number one, he's talking about how a lot of these companies, they don't have elected officials. Well, you don't elect the members of the Federal Reserve. You're in Canada. You don't elect the members of the Bank of Canada. They're appointed. It's separate from government. So already his final point there about elected officials being able to exercise these types of policies, it doesn't really stand against scrutiny, because you and I don't get to decide how our government issued currency works. So that point is kind of moot. Now, the other thing he's talking about here is, I deeply believe that money must remain in the hands of the states, much like he references defense later. Now, this seems at odds with the whole encryption battle that's going on, and when the government pressured Apple to insert backdoors into their encryption so that they could essentially read anybody's messages. And Apple, as they should, pushed back against that and said, no, we're not going to do that, because once you break encryption for the good guys, then it leaves the door open for broken encryption for the bad guys to get in as well. It's either encryption for all or encryption for none, and we choose encryption for all. So if he's not trusting enough of the government to give them a backdoor to the encryption on their phones, then why would he be trusting enough to trust them with money and defense and not have that in the hands of individual people? It just seems like cognitive dissonance to me. It seems like those values do not line up to me. But I mean, they've taken their stance and they've said, no, money is not our realm. We'll do payment solutions related to fiat currencies, but we're not going to pump out our own cryptocurrency. Now, however, the Apple Pay vice president, Jennifer Bailey, has in the past had statements that seem a little bit at odds with this, not entirely, but she said that they're watching cryptocurrency. We think it's interesting. We think it has interesting long-term potential, but it hasn't really come to fruition, anything to do with Apple Pay as of yet. So now I should make one other note here, that he seems to be worried about private entities creating competing currencies, because it would give them more power, give companies more power. So perhaps he's more open to something like Bitcoin, where there's no central person controlling it, where it's more the will of the crowd. He seems to like the idea of a democratized, if people don't want it, then it doesn't happen, kind of ideal. So maybe he could be partial to Bitcoin, but it just kind of seems dismissive of everything, in that, oh, we don't want these people in power, but these people in power are fine. And he seems a little confused as to how that power is given or bestowed when really it's taken in terms of creating currency on a national level. Anyways, let's move on here. Coinbase Pro, the fees for certain users have surged anywhere up to 233%. And this is specifically for low volume users. On the other hand, people that are doing high volume actually saw a drop in fees. Regardless, since most users are lower volume, they've kind of gotten put through the ringer on social media because of this. So what are the fees looking like? Well, anybody trading under 10K have seen fees surge over 200%. And so what did that look like? It used to be that if you're trading under 200% or under 10,000, you'd be paying about 0.15% on every trade. Now you're paying 0.5% on every trade. So up by quite a bit, 233%. Now, if you're a taker, so this has to do whether you're adding liquidity or taking liquidity. If you're a taker under 10,000, your fees surged 100%, so from 0.25% to also 0.5%. But if you're high volume, you saw across the board that it has dropped. And so they say they're trying to encourage liquidity, but again, as a small trader, as a day-to-day trader, not great for you. This definitely favors people that have deep pockets. And I mean, Coinbase wants to make money, and they want to encourage a lot of liquidity on their program, on their platform rather. You guys know I'm not a Coinbase person. You also know that I don't really care for trading for other altcoins anyways. So for me, this story is very inconsequential, and just another reason for people that didn't already hate on Coinbase to hate on Coinbase. For me, again, at home, I use my employer to buy Bitcoin when I want to buy Bitcoin because it's cheap and it's easy, and I can do an e-transfer, and yeah, so I just use Bull Bitcoin all the time. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys still use Coinbase? Are you pissed about the change in fees, or does it matter for you? Are you in the Bitcoin only camp? Are you happily stacking sats, maybe via Cash App if you're in the States, and ignoring all the noise that's coming out of the crypto and altcoin camp? Let me know. And one other fun little thing that I wanted to touch on before we finish for the day here, and this was out of Calvin Air, some update on Craig Wright's bang up legal defense that they're putting together here, or yeah. So anyway, somebody said when Craig Wright versus Peter McCormick court date, and Calvin Air replied, "I'm not following it as I am a bit busy, but they are putting together the mountain of evidence as I have seen some of the boxes of historical documents, including older versions of the white paper in Craig's handwriting and printed and with his notes and coffee on them and rusty staples." So obviously the response to this has been absolutely ridiculous. Everybody just making ridiculous fun of it, saying rusty staples are now evidence of proof of Satoshi. And one of my favorites, I gotta call out Crypto Scam Hub here, because he always puts together the best memes, and I loved this one of of him investigating the rusty paperclip here and Craig dumping coffee all over a printed version of the white paper. It's fantastic. You've even got McCormick making an appearance in the background. If you're not following Crypto Scam Hub on Twitter, you should be, because he's a funny guy. Definitely check him out. Anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. I thought I'd end it on a funny note. If you're new here, of course, hit like, subscribe, and share. If you want to help the show in another way, check out the sponsors, Ledn for Bitcoin-backed loans, Nord for the privacy thing, and of course, hit up Wasabi Wallet if you're looking for privacy and to obfuscate the history of your coins. That's important. Check them out. Links down below. And finally, if you want to help out the show in another way, you can drop me a Bitcoin Lightning Network tip on my tippin.me page. With that, I'm out. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on Monday for your daily session.